Hey guys, welcome back to a bit of rugby news. So this week in rugby, the International Rugby Series Test Series for July has started, and we saw the return of the South African Springboks, and we saw the first outfitting in South Africa for the Lions. Quite a bit of exciting rugby happened on the weekend. Some record-breaking scores by the All Blacks, and the Wallabies set to play France tomorrow on Wednesday, as well as the Lions are also set to play Sharks tomorrow, so quite a lot of rugby happening this month, which is really really good for me. I'm really really happy. Let's have a look at some news this week. First up, we got the he's apparently back, according to fakenews.com.au. He's apparently back at it. He was looking at signing with Rugby League in Queensland. And he just announced that he's actually signed a 2-year deal with Japan Rugby Union. He's back playing Union with what's the name of the team? Japan. Where was he? Yeah, Japan top league with NTT Communications. Yep. As long as he stays out of Australian soil, I am. Whatever. Don't care. Good luck to you. Hopefully you retire soon. Getting old, Israel. Another news, probably more importantly, the Springboks has tested positive again this week. Lou Diaga is currently, is the latest person to test positive, and he's currently in isolation. I feel the whole team is in isolation. Diego did not play against Georgia on the weekend, so there's little risk to the Georgian team. But yeah, that's really, really tough for the Springboks team. They had 3 positive tests last week. So hopefully the games are not going to be pulled, and hopefully everything gets cleaned up in the camp as soon as they can. They are in a bubble, but due to traveling and stuff, they can still get exposed. That's a little bit unfortunate for the South Africans. Another bit more bad news for South Africa. RG Snyman he's had a fire pit accident with Damian Delende. They had a bit of fire accident in Ireland about 3 weeks ago, and it looks like his injuries are quite serious. Skin draft after the accident, and he's going to miss out the Lions series. He was in the Rugby World Cup final against England, and he was off the bench, and quite an important piece for the Springboks. But it looks like he's not going to be able to give his commitments for his nation this time around. Really, really, really sad. A lot of these players wait 12 years for an opportunity. And and this is a bit of a news from me. So last week before the Tongan test, there was obviously pre-test interviews, and Fozzy will ask the question: should the All Blacks play the Maori All Blacks? This is a question that was asked before the test. Now this question probably more relevant after the massive blowout against Tonga. The All Blacks really would be more beneficial to play a team that is closer to its levels, and having a blowout against amateurs is really not helping the All Blacks at all. It's not helping Tonga at all, and it's just really just not the best preparations for the All Blacks. So he was asked a question, so let's have a watch and listen to the response.
A long time ago, we may remember that. No. Would you ever think you could see the day where that happens?
He was quite nervous. He knows the question's coming. Takes a drink.
I hope not.
I hope not. That's his answer. Look at him.
I'm a big fan of it. I think we both represent our countries with pride, and from a slightly different angle, and that's a great quality of both teams. And So do I see them pitted against each other? I don't really think it's the right thing. But I think the Maori All Blacks, it's going to be cool playing on the same ground, and then particularly having two Pacifica nations on the same ground as well. It's going to be a pretty special time. In fact, part of our challenge is going to be make sure we don't get hooked up to the gala festival of having a curtain raiser with a lot of noise and think it's a festival.
He looked really, really uncomfortable with our question, didn't he? And he switched. He changed the subject to talk about the Pacific Islanders as soon as he can. He's he doesn't want to lose his job, guys. Tell me what you think. I think he's a bit afraid to lose his job if the Maori All Blacks somehow put an upset on the All Blacks. Just creates a lot of drama for him. But the truth of the matter is, for the best of rugby, for the best, in the best interest of the All Blacks rugby, the All Blacks needs to have better opponents to prepare them leading into the Rugby Championship. And playing Tonga and even Fiji, we'll see how they go this weekend. I'm probably expecting a bit of blowout against Fiji as well because they played in Autumn Nations Cup last year, but that's pretty much it. So, yeah, it's really not going to help the All Blacks playing against much easier teams. And it really is going to... it really is for the best interest for the All Blacks to play against the Maori All Blacks. And it's not the best interest for Fozzy, Sir Fozzy, because his job will be on the line if anything should go awry. But yeah, tell me what you think. That's something that I thought was really interesting. And some news in Australia now. The Western Force has signed the Crusader winger, Manasa Mataele. He played, I think he was a reserve for Crusaders. He came off the bench quite a few times from memory. And he was pretty decent, I would say. I don't remember him being particularly bad or particularly amazing, but he's definitely a quality player for the Crusader camp. To see the Western Force picking him up, it's pretty nice. I thought the Western Force had one really good winger with the Olowa fella, and having him as the second winger it's actually quite a nice addition to the Western Force. We'll see how they go next year in the Super 12 competition. Going up next, so the British and Irish Lions are playing the Sharks on Wednesday alongside with the Wallabies. So the Wallabies has also selected their team for the French series. I have a video for that. I'll probably put a thing up here, or otherwise you can just check. I'll put it at the end of this video so you can click on it. So the Wallabies versus French team has been announced as well. Overall, I felt like the Wallabies has way more experience than the French team, especially in the front row, in the tight five. The Wallabies are probably going to do a number on the French scrum and potentially the lineouts as well. The back line, the Wallabies also has more experience, especially the French is also debuting a fullback. So, yeah, could be... I see Wallaby a wing here. But, it's the French. You never know which French team's going to turn up. And, it's... Hopefully, the Wallabies should put a nice little win there. So, let's have a look at this. The Sharks are playing the British and Irish Lions on Wednesday as well. I probably won't be able to watch this one. It's like 3 a.m. in the morning. Let's have a look at some of the teams. So, Marco Vinopola actually came off as reserve against the Lions, so he's getting another shift as a start, so that's a little bit tough for him. Most of the players have been, pretty much the entire team has been changed from the, except Watson is also putting a double shift. Elliot Daly came off the bench, so kind of a shift and a half, and Lim Williams a double shift as well. So outside of these guys, pretty much, I think Ty Follow maybe a double shift, kind of half shift and half. Stuart Hawks, shift and a half. Connor Murray, who wasn't on, I don't think. Chris Harris. I think, a few of these guys, especially Vinopola. I think Anthony Watson is the only one that started the last game. Yeah. So... Oh, and Liam Williams. So these two guys are literally pulling double shifts. Whereas Elliot Daly and Vinod Pola are doing like half shifts. Owen Farrell, my boy, is gone, being replaced by Bandiaki. Dan Biggo is in. Gareth Davis. Oh, Gareth Davis came off the bench as well. He did come off the bench as well. So Gareth Davis is going to be having a run. Pretty solid team for the British and Irish Lions. I am not too sure about the Sharks team. I'm not familiar with all the players except Cohen Bosch has been pretty good for the Sharks. His kicking has not been as good as he used to be, but the Sharks during the Curry Cup and some of the Ramble Cup that I watched has been decent but messy. I would say messy is probably the words for the team. I remember they were, I think in one of the games I watched where the Sharks were like leading quite a lot, had a big lead over the, I think it was Stormers, and then they just kind of like fell apart, and then I think Stormers won in the end with a very close win, like last minute kind of win. But yeah, Cohen Bosch, his kicking needs to be improved. But this is the Sharks outfit. You can probably read it here, and yeah, will be interesting to see the highlights after the game. And yeah, now let's have a look at the test results. So the international test started with, yeah, forget about that. The test matches started. The July test started with South Africa playing Georgia. Now this was a very nice game to see the Springboks coming back. Now in the first half, the Springboks really struggled for about 30 minutes. One of the big issue was Trevor Nyanke. He was having a bit of issue against the Georgian front rowers. So the scrums weren't great for the Springboks in the first half. There was just very rusty. The Georgians were leading 9 points to 5 in up to about 30 minutes before Bunambi goes over for the Springboks. And also the Georgians were the Springboks had really good defense, so Georgians weren't able to really capitalize on any tries. But in the second half, when the South Africans kind of like core players came on, they really put a number on the Georgian team. The scrums were very dominant when the South African kind of like starting scrum front rowers came on. The South African line-out looked better. The maul was just impeccable when the set pieces was just amazing. So the second half, South Africa really did a number on the Georgian team and looked very, very slick. And that is only like a half-strength South African team as well. So a lot of their starting players are still not available. Some stats: South Africa 473 run meters, 235. 29 defenders beaten out of 139 carries for South Africa. 13 clean breaks to 3. There was 13 turnovers conceded. Most of that were in the first half, and yeah, that's something that they probably need to work on against a team like Georgia. That should not really be an issue. 15 missed tackles out of 80. That is a little bit higher than the South Africa in terms of percentage. What South Africa want. They wanted to be at like 90% tackling success rate. So this is a little bit lower than that. This is about 80-ish. Still not too bad. 4 turnovers conceded. 5 out of 6 conversion. Pollard missed his first conversion, and then he managed to get himself in the groove, getting the 4, and then Herschel Yanshis got 1 conversion for himself. And this is pretty much the stats. 11 conceded penalties to 16. Not too bad. There was 1 yellow card for Georgia where they were under tremendous amount of pressure, and repeated penalties has led to a yellow card for Georgia. And yeah, that's the game for this first game for the Springboks. Very good to see. Very interesting stuff coming out of that game. Second game, this was the Saturday game. This was All Blacks playing Tonga. This, you can see the number of tries being scored. This is like, it's just ridiculous. 16 tries and just absolute blowout against the Tongan team. It got to a point where it was really pathetic. Tonga was offered, look at the run meters, 1,225 run meters. That is astronomical. The players from New Zealand were just like tired from doing marathons on the field, right? It got really pathetic at one for the Tongan team. They were like taking really long time to get back to halfway to take the kickoffs. They were every opportunity they have, regardless of what it is, penalties or short arms or even 22-meter dropouts, they opted for scrums just to run the clock down a bit. The Tongan scrums weren't that great either. It was like they were pretty much getting dominated as well, but not, like it was pretty bad as well. Let's have a look. What's a scrum turnover? Scrum lost 3. They lost 7 lineouts. 50% of the lineouts were lost, and so that was pretty bad for Tonga. So they were basically, even when they got a full-on penalty in kicking range for 3 points, sometimes you figure that they might want to go for a try for a 3-point kick. No, they just set up a scrum just to run down the clock. It was really, really sad to see. This is why I think the All Blacks should try play the Maori All Blacks and see how that fares. Damien McKenzie played really well for the All Blacks. I think he probably have that number 15 jersey. One head on that number 15 jersey over Geordie Barrett. Beauden Barrett came back, not as good as Mo'unga in my opinion. He did set up a try. He didn't score any tries where, you're kind of expecting Jordan to score 10 tries in this sort of matches. He didn't score any points. He was on for about 30 minutes. Still getting himself back into the game. I do think that Jordan could probably be better at number 12. It's a thing that New Zealand don't like playing a second 5A at 12. They like a big number 12, like Sonny Bill Williams, who can just draw a bunch of defenders and still be able to offload and really front up in dominant tackles in defense. So that's like the traditional number 12 that New Zealand is looking for. Beauden Barrett, if he's playing for Australia, Australia were more than happy to put him at number 12. But for New Zealand, getting that dominant tackle, having the ability to crash ball and offload is more important than a second playmaker. So interesting stuff coming out of this game as well. And then we have Ireland versus Japan. This was the most entertaining game on the weekend. Japan played really, really, really well, as they did. It's kind of like as they've done against the British Irish Lions. They play even better this game. The Irish team obviously have players in overseas, missing some of their core players. Johnny Sexton wasn't selected. He was reading his phone on the bench in the crowd. But the Irish team and Japan played really well in the first 60 minutes or so. Tamura really had a really nice display of his skills with his kicking, with his decision making. Just a bit of a magician all around the park. And it was pretty neck and neck all the way going to about 60 minutes. And then Japan's reserves came on, and you can just feel the Japanese team kind of dropped in not just intensity, but they kind of dropped quite a bit in their energy levels. And there was the Japan kind of just threw the game away with their own penalties. You can see that both these penalties were given after the 60th minute, and that's basically the difference between Japan and Ireland. Both teams were back and forward in their tries, pretty much neck and neck all the way to about 60 minutes, and then Japan's reserves came on, kind of let down the team a little bit. Still, good game regardless. This was the most entertaining game on the weekend. Let's have a look at some of the stats. Run meters, Ireland 329 to Japan's 406. So Japan had more run meters over the Irish. 24 defenders meters, 20, slightly ahead of Ireland as well. 9 clean breaks to 11 for Ireland. A bit of advantage over that. 170 passes for Japan, 135 for Ireland, against more game played, more rugby is played for the Japanese team. 10 offloads, 5 to Ireland. 9 turnovers conceded, 11 to Ireland. So you would think that Japanese team is actually winning in all these little aspects in the game. Tackles, 151 to 122. Higher tackle success rate as well, with 20 missed tackles to 24 for the Irish. 3 turnovers to 2 for the Irish. And I think the main thing that I wanted to look at is discipline. 14 penalties for Japan to 8 for Ireland. The discipline really, really hurt Japan. And I think a lot of these 14 penalties were given out in the second half. It was like Japan couldn't build any momentum. They're just giving away the ball with penalties. And Ireland were able to just piggyback back-to-back penalties to get themselves in field goal position. Basically, they didn't really have to do that much to earn themselves the 6 points of penalties. But yeah, a little bit disappointing for the Japanese fans. Regardless, that is a really, really nice outing for Japan. We'll have Wales versus Canada, 68 points to 12. I did not watch this match. Looks like quite a dropping for Wales, as kind of expected. And let's have a look at some stats. 723 run meters for Wales to 189. That kind of like tells the story, or quite dominant performance from Wales. 33 missed tackles out of 172 tackles made for Canada. 10 tackles missed, 136. So very good defense for Wales as well. And 9 out of 10 conversions for Wales. That's a very good kicking rate. As always, Wales always very good at kicking. And discipline, 15 penalties for Wales, 17 for Canada. So that's something that Wales can definitely improve, reducing the penalty count. Next, we have Argentina versus Romania. I tried to watch this game, to be honest, but I was too tired. It was like really early in the morning, so we're just going to have a look at some stuff. Milty had a 1 conversion out of 3. That's pretty bad. Penalty try, the conversion's given for the try, so you don't have the kick. So 3 kicks. Milty got 1. Milty, I'd expected you to be better, especially if he wants to play to replace Sanchez. But yeah, this was a game that I really didn't get a chance to watch this one. 13 penalties considered to 19. 1 yellow card, 2 yellow cards. Quite a bit of discipline issue there, looks like. And that's Argentina versus Romania. And the last game, I think, is USA versus England on Independence Day at Twickenham in front of 10,000 people. The Swing Low Sweet Chariot was singing in about 5 minutes into the game. The fans were really happy to be back. This game, probably the big news coming to this game was that the England really played well in the first half and then kind of just like lost it in the second half. The Americans actually scored more points in the second half over England. So you can say that America won half of this game, and Eddie Jones was under the pump by the media. The commentators were already slamming Eddie Jones before the game was even over in the second half. The Eddie Jones apparently joked around having only 1 backline reserve out of 8. So he joked about having 7 forwards in the reserves and 1 back. And then eventually settled on 6 forwards and 2 reserve backs for England. And basically, it's just irony strikes England. They had like 2 backline injuries in the first half. So they had to put on both of their backs in the first half. And then they had to play some of their forwards in the second half because they ran out of backs reserves. Yeah, so literally like a joke that Eddie Jones was making just backfired on him. So the media was really critical on him for that. And the player that I was looking forward to play with Joe Thokanasiga. He was absolutely the scariest person on the field in 2019 when he played against Australia. He was absolutely dominant. He looked like Joel Alomu in his prime. And Thokanasiga hasn't been selected for 2 years now. I was really surprised because he was probably the biggest prospect in England rugby, in my opinion, in 2019, going into the Rugby World Cup. He was 130 kilos and he plays winger. He's just like absolute freight train. You know your maths, you know your physics, power equals mass times acceleration, and he's got 130 kilos and he runs, and he's a sprinter. So he was super devastating, super scary. And this is the first time back since the World Cup, scores 2 tries for himself. He did look really easy. However, I did notice he looked a bit smaller. His shoulders looked a bit narrower. He did look a little bit less in shape than he was in 2019. So maybe that is why he hasn't been selected for the England team for the last 2 years. But yeah, that's kind of just him letting himself down, I guess. Gotta get back to the gym, mate. He did look noticeably like smaller, especially around the shoulders, I guess compared to him in 2019, where he was just an absolute monster, V-shaped monster, and just absolute, yeah, devastator. But still good to see him back. The Americans put on a nice show in the second half. Very good performance. Cartier was a pretty decent kicker, got a penalty in the first half, and 3 out of 4 conversions in the second half. And Smith is one also like up and coming number 10 for England. He's been heavily talked about. He looked like he's half Asian. For my opinion, I'm not sure if he actually is half Asian, but he's quite talented on the field. His kicking was pretty good, and yeah, pretty good performance for England. The Americans be pretty happy to win the second half, and Eddie Jones, his trolling has backfired, it looks like. And yeah, that's the international rugby's wrap up for the week, and that's the news for the week, guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow for the Wallabies game. And yes, I'll see you guys tomorrow.